My boss stood up in front of everyone in the room and said, "We're letting you go. Your position is over effective immediately." He said it loudly so everyone could hear, like it was some kind of announcement. I froze for a moment. My heart pounded in my chest. My 20 coworkers stared at me. Some looked shocked. Some had that tiny, strange relief that happens when it isn't them being fired. The air in the room felt colder, like someone had turned on the air conditioner to the max. I could almost see my own breath in front of me. Thayer, the coworker who always seemed smug, leaned back in his chair and let out a small smirk. He wasn't surprised at all. Maybe he thought this would be funny. I felt a strange calm start to wash over me, even though my body wanted to shake. I picked up my notepad from the table. For 2 years, I had been ignored in meetings. Thayer took my ideas and presented them as if they were his own. For 2 years, I had spoken up about things that didn't make sense, and people called me difficult or too picky. I stood up slowly. I smoothed my skirt, trying to look steady and confident. Then I looked Thayer right in the eyes. "Actually," I said, perfect timing, "I wish you all the best." My voice sounded steadier than I expected. Thayer's face twisted with confusion. It was almost satisfying. Almost because the humiliation of being fired in front of everyone still stung a little. I walked out of the conference room without looking back. In my car, I allowed myself exactly 3 minutes to cry. Not because I was sad. No, I cried from pure, incandescent anger. The kind of anger that burns so hot it feels like cold fire. I replayed a memory that was much worse than today. 6 months ago, Thayer had leaned across his desk and whispered, "The bosses don't think you have leadership qualities. Try being more agreeable." What he really meant was, stop asking questions about the quarterly reports that somehow always matched projections perfectly, even when things didn't make sense. I remembered pointing out inconsistencies and him saying, "You're making mountains out of molehills." The next day, my calendar invitations to strategy meetings disappeared. The message was loud and clear. Stay in your lane or pay the price. I felt trapped. But Thayer didn't know that 3 months ago, a special committee in our industry had noticed me. They had seen me at conferences, listening carefully, asking the right questions, sharing ideas in professional forums. They had quietly been tracking my work, not the watered-down versions Thayer took credit for. They offered me a leadership position, but with one condition: I could choose my own team. I would have complete authority to build the team I wanted. As I pulled out of the parking lot, my phone lit up with a message from Seraphine, the chair of the committee. "Heard what happened. Ready to start building your dream team now." It was a simple message, but it made my heart race. I typed back one word: absolutely. That weekend, I made 12 phone calls to amazing people I knew who had been overlooked, passed over, or ignored in their jobs. I called Aloan first from analytics. She was brilliant at creating charts and visualizations that made complicated numbers look simple. Yet she had been passed over for promotions twice, even though she had increased department efficiency by 40% with her work. "I'm not calling about yesterday," I said when she answered. "The whole building knows what happened. It was brutal." I paused. "That doesn't matter now. I'm calling because I'm building something new, and I need people who see things others miss." "I need you." There was silence on the other end. Then she asked, "Then what exactly are you building?" I told her about the committee's mission: to create a new framework that would transform our entire industry. No more manipulating numbers. No more smoke and mirrors. No more pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. This wasn't about revenge, though a small part of me knew I wanted a little payback for Thayer. This was about building something honest. "What's the compensation?" she asked, cutting straight to the point, as she always did. When I told her, nearly double her current salary, she laughed. "When do I start?" she asked. I smiled. "We start right away." Over the weekend, I made 11 more calls like that, to Aaron, whose diversity initiative had been shelved because the company didn't think it mattered. To Caliph, whose creative, innovative ideas were ignored because they seemed too risky. To Isolde, who had been sidelined for questioning impossible growth targets for 3 consecutive quarters. I didn't mention that I had been fired. I simply shared my vision, offered positions, and promised proper recognition and compensation. By Sunday evening, I had verbal commitments from all 12. The talent that had been suppressed, overlooked, and underutilized was now united with a common purpose. On Monday morning, Thayer arrived at work to find 12 resignation letters on his desk, 12 empty chairs, and 12 out-of-office replies directing urgent matters to his inbox. I could imagine him sitting there, putting the pieces together slowly, realization dawning on him. By Wednesday, he called me. "What did you do?" he demanded. I answered calmly. "I did exactly what you trained me to do. I recognized valuable assets when I saw them." He sputtered. "You can't just," I interrupted. "Goodbye, Thayer. I wish you the best in your restructuring efforts." We rented a large, sunny warehouse with exposed brick walls and lots of natural light. It was the opposite of the windowless, stuffy rooms where most of us had been trapped. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. "Welcome to day one," I told my team as they gathered around the large central table. "We have 6 months to reimagine an entire industry." Imani raised her hand and asked quietly, "What if we fail?" It was the question everyone was thinking. We had all left secure jobs. We had all burned bridges. What if it didn't work? "Then we fail having tried something authentic," I said. "But I don't think we will." The first month was chaos. Beautiful, productive chaos. Ideas flowed like water, splashing in all directions. We challenged each other, built on concepts, tore down conventions. Our old company scrambled. Clients called, wondering why their best contacts had suddenly disappeared. Thayer tried to fix things with company-wide emails about transitions and exciting restructuring opportunities. But he couldn't memorize his way out of the truth. He couldn't replace Imani's analytical skills, Kalitha's client relationships, Isolde's planning, or Aaron's team coordination. Without our 12 key people performing daily miracles to make impossible targets seem achievable, reality began to show. For the first time in 5 years, the quarterly reports reflected the truth. And reality wasn't pretty. The business press noticed. Headlines screamed about unexpected shortfalls and questioned the accuracy of previous reports. The stock dropped 11% in a single day. But I wasn't focused on what we had left behind. I was too busy building what came next. Our team settled into a rhythm. Imani transformed complex data into visualizations that told compelling stories. Kalith developed relationships with forward-thinking potential clients. Isolde created realistic growth projections. Aaron ensured we maintained the inclusive culture we all craved. We weren't just colleagues. We became a kind of family, the kind that challenges each other to be better. We argued. We compromised. We celebrated small victories with impromptu dance parties and late-night strategy sessions fueled by too much coffee. 3 months in, we had a breakthrough. "The problem isn't just in reporting," Imani said during our weekly alignment meeting. She pulled up a visualization that showed patterns across the whole industry. "Look at these curves. Everyone is using the same broken model and hiding their failures. So we don't just need a better reporting system," I said slowly, seeing where she was heading. "We need an entirely new approach to how value is measured." Isolde finished my thought. "We need to measure actual impact, not manipulated metrics." That night, we worked until dawn, mapping out a framework that would revolutionize how our industry evaluated success. We called it the Transparency Matrix. Word spread through industry channels. Former colleagues began reaching out, asking if we had positions available. Executives who had ignored me in the hallways started sending LinkedIn requests. Then came an email from Darian, the CEO of my former company. "Your work sounds intriguing. Perhaps we should discuss potential synergies over lunch." I showed it to the team during our morning huddle. "Are you going to meet him?" Aaron asked. "What do you think?" I countered, looking around the circle. Isolde straightened her glasses. "He ignored you for years, then fired you in front of everyone. Now he wants your brain." "Classic Darian move," Kalith offered. "Or he's genuinely interested in what you're building." Imani added, "His company is in trouble. Their last earnings call was a disaster." I nodded. I would meet him, not to partner but to understand what he really wanted. The following Tuesday, I sat across from Darian at a small restaurant downtown. We had worked together for 4 years, and this was our first one-on-one conversation in all that time. He began after ordering a $20 salad. "You've created quite the stir. 12 departures in 1 day. I've never seen anything like it." I corrected him. 13. "You fired me first." He looked uncomfortable. "About that, Thayer may have overstepped. We were restructuring." I raised an eyebrow. "Yes, but your dismissal wasn't approved at my level." "So Thayer made that decision independently?" Darian shifted in his seat. "Not exactly. There were concerns about your approach. Your questions about the numbers." His eyes widened slightly. He knew I had been asking the hard questions. "I was never against analytical rigor," he said. He backpedaled. "But there are realities in business that sometimes require flexibility." I repeated slowly, "Flexibility. Is that what we're calling lying now?" Darian lowered his voice. That's a serious accusation, Kaylin. I shook my head. It's not an accusation. It's an observation. The truth. I put down my fork. The warm food sat in front of me, but I barely noticed it. My mind was on the meeting I had just been called to. So, what exactly did you want to talk about today? Your transparency matrix, I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. I had heard good things about it. Maybe our two companies could work together and make something amazing. Darian, the man across the table, leaned back in his chair. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. That was my first warning sign. Then it hit me. The real reason he had invited me to lunch wasn't to be friendly. His company was in trouble. They had been showing numbers that weren't real, pretending everything was fine, and now those fake numbers had caught up with them. He needed our help. He needed the ideas we had been developing to save what he had built. We're not interested in working together, I said evenly. Don't rush us. We have our own resources, our own clients, and a system that can handle data well. No thank you. Darian leaned closer, his voice dropping a little. Be reasonable, he said. This business isn't big enough for both of us to succeed. I froze. Something in his voice made me pause. It wasn't just desperation. It was more than that. There was a threat hidden under the words. I wanted to make sure I wasn't imagining it. Are you warning me about something, Darian? I asked. He leaned back again and smiled. It still didn't reach his eyes. Startups face unexpected problems all the time, he said. You'll learn that. I left the lunch feeling uneasy. On my walk back to our office, I pulled out my phone and called Seraphine from the committee. Darian just kind of threatened us, I told her. I explained the lunch from start to finish. Seraphine didn't sound surprised. Not surprising, she said. Your old employer has friends on the boards of many big companies. They aren't above making trouble for you if they want to. What kind of trouble? I asked, my stomach tightening. I've heard rumors that they are trying to approach your potential clients, Seraphine said. They might offer huge discounts to lock in exclusive contracts. That would make it harder for you to succeed. Could they really do that? I thought. I tried to stay calm, but the knot in my stomach wouldn't go away. They can try, Seraphine said. How is the transparency matrix coming along? We're making progress, but we need another month for a full demonstration, I told her. You might not have a month, she said. There's a big industry summit next week in Denver. All the major decision-makers will be there. If you could present even a prototype. I stopped walking. Next week? That seemed impossible. Could we really pull off a demo that fast? If anyone can do it, it's your team, Seraphine said. You can do it. But remember, Darian will be presenting too. He wants to show his new ideas about transparency. I felt the weight of her words. He was planning to show something at the summit, maybe even take credit for our ideas before we could show them. My stomach twisted. I called an emergency team meeting as soon as I got back to the office. The team gathered quickly. I could see the worry on their faces, even before I spoke. We need a working demo in 6 days, I announced. I explained the situation clearly. Silence filled the room. That's impossible, Isolde finally said. Not with the way we are working now. No, I agreed. But what if we make it smaller? What if we focus on one part of the industry instead of everything? Imani was already typing away. Healthcare has the cleanest data, she said. We could build a simplified demo using just that. Aaron crossed his arms. Even with that limitation, we'll be racing the clock. I looked at each member of my team. I won't lie. This won't be easy. If anyone thinks we shouldn't try, now's the time to speak. Caleth stood up. They tried to bury us before. I say we show them we're strong. Isolde smiled slowly. 6 impossible days it is, she said. We transformed our office into a round-the-clock operation. Couches became sleeping stations. The refrigerator was stocked with energy drinks and meal replacement bars. Our families and partners brought home-cooked meals and fresh clothes. Every inch of space became a place to work, think, or rest. Day 3 nearly broke us. The algorithm we were building kept giving inconsistent results. At 2 a.m., Imani slammed her laptop shut. This isn't working, she said. The variables are too connected. We can't separate them properly. I rubbed my eyes, trying to stay awake. There has to be a solution. Maybe there isn't, I muttered. Imani rarely raised her voice, so hearing her say that shook me. Maybe Darian was right. Maybe we were trying something too ambitious. The room went silent. Darian's name had become like a curse in our office. Isolde, who had been quietly working in the corner, suddenly looked up. What if we try it a different way? She asked. What do you mean? I asked, curious. We're trying to account for all variables at once. What if we do one step at a time instead? A cascading system, where each layer checks the next before moving on. Caliph leaned forward. He started thinking through each layer of data before moving to the next. Exactly, he said. Isolde moved to the whiteboard. It would look like this. She started sketching the new approach. As she drew, energy returned to the room. People leaned in. You could feel the excitement growing. By dawn, we had completely restructured the framework. For the next 3 days, we coded, tested, debugged, and refined. Sleep became a luxury. Clarity and focus became precious, like treasures we had to hold onto with all our willpower. The night before our flight to Denver, we ran the final test. The room held its breath as Imani executed the program. The screen is filled with a 3-dimensional visualization. It showed healthcare outcomes mapped against intervention costs, paperwork, and patient satisfaction. Every variable changed in real time. It's beautiful, Aaron whispered. It wasn't just beautiful. It was revolutionary. For the first time, the industry would have a tool that could make hidden inefficiencies visible, that could reward actual improvements in patient care rather than just clever paperwork. As we stared at our creation, a notification popped up on my screen. An email from Thayer. Heard you're presenting at the summit tomorrow, it read. Bold move for someone so new to leadership. Darian's presentation will make quite an impact. He's been working on it for months. Some advice from a former manager. I read it aloud to the team. No, when you're outmatched. Aaron snorted. Does he really think intimidation works on you? I smiled, but something about the email bothered me. How did Thayer know the details of our presentation? We were a tight group of 12 people, carefully chosen. Had I made a mistake by trusting them? I scanned their faces, wondering if someone had betrayed us. The thought made me sick. These weren't just colleagues, they were my chosen family. Everything okay, Kaylin? Isolde asked, noticing my expression. Just pre-presentation nerves, I said, forcing a smile. We should all try to get some rest before the flight. That night, sleep didn't come. I kept thinking about our journey. Was there a sign I missed? Who had financial troubles? Who maintained friendships at the old company? Who would gain from sharing secrets? No obvious candidates appeared. I had picked every person carefully. They had every reason to want us to succeed. Yet Thayer knew something he shouldn't. The Denver Conference Center buzzed with industry professionals when we arrived the next morning. Our presentation was scheduled for 2 p.m. Darian's was at 11 a.m. Let's watch his presentation first, I told the team. Know your enemy. We filed into the back row of the main hall. Darian took the stage. His opening slides were slick, full of buzzwords and flashy visuals. The future of our industry lies in greater transparency, he began. I was tense. Had he really managed to steal our concept? As his presentation continued, relief washed over me. His innovation was just a dashboard, making the same flawed metrics look prettier. He hadn't solved the real problem. He has no idea what we've created, Isolde whispered. After Darian's presentation, we retreated to a small preparation room. Some of the tension lifted, but I still felt uneasy. I had to make sure no one had betrayed us. I need to address something, I said, closing the door. Thayer's email suggests he knows details about our presentation. Has anyone been in contact with our old company? The question landed like a stone in still water. Faces went pale, shock and hurt spreading across them. You think one of us is leaking information? Caliph asked, disbelief in his voice. I think someone might have, perhaps unintentionally, I said. Aaron stood up. This is ridiculous. We've all sacrificed everything for this venture. I understand how it sounds, I said. But Thayer knew. Maybe he's bluffing. Imani interrupted. It's what he does. He creates doubt and divides people. I wanted to believe her, but something still felt off. If anyone has anything to share, now's the time. Silence stretched uncomfortably. Then Isolde spoke. I had lunch with Lyric last week. She was my closest friend at the old company, but I didn't discuss specifics about the Matrix. I just said we were presenting and had made a breakthrough. I studied her, looking for any sign of lying. There was none. Anyone else? After a moment, Caliph raised his hand. My brother-in-law still works there. We had dinner Sunday. I might have mentioned we were finishing a healthcare prototype. That made sense. Minor leaks, not enough to hurt our work. Imani shifted in her seat. She began, then stopped. My heart sank. Not Imani. She had been the first person I called. Darian reached out directly, she finally said, her voice steady. He offered triple my current salary to come back. He said they were making real changes. I told him exactly where he could put his offer. I just wanted you to know he approached me. Relief flooded through me, immediately followed by shame for doubting her. I'm sorry for questioning everyone, I said. Aaron interrupted. Thayer's email is just a cheap intimidation tactic. He knows he's about to be outshined. I nodded. I let go of my suspicion. You're right. Let's focus on our presentation. As we organized our materials, there was a knock at the door. A conference center staff member entered. Miss Harper, there's a technical issue with the presentation hall. Could you come check the setup? I followed her down a long, narrow service corridor, away from the main conference areas. What sort of technical issue? I asked, trying to hide my nervousness as we turned another corner. I'll let him explain, she said, opening a door to a small meeting room. Darian was sitting alone at a table, waiting calmly. Thank you, Thessaly, he said to the staff member. She nodded and quickly left the room, closing the door behind her. The sound of the door clicking made the room feel even more serious. What is this? I asked, trying to stay calm. My heart was already beating fast. A private conversation, Darian said in a quiet, steady voice. Please sit, he said again, but I stayed standing. I didn't want to give him the wrong idea. Our presentation is in an hour. That's why this can't wait. He pushed a folder across the table toward me. It slid slowly, like it was full of something heavy. Take a look, he said. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the folder. My stomach felt like it had icy fingers curling inside. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Inside were papers with printouts and pieces of code from our transparency matrix prototype. They even had notes and comments from our team. I froze. My stomach twisted. How did he get this? These were our ideas, or at least our current ideas. Does it matter? He asked, reading my expression. The point is, your presentation uses special computer codes made while you were working at my company. That's not true, I said quickly, but my mind was racing. The papers looked familiar, but something about them was just a little different. Our legal team disagrees, he said, sliding another paper toward me. This one was a cease and desist letter. Present your so-called innovation today, and we'll take you to court by morning if you continue. I skimmed the legal document, my anger growing. My hands were shaking slightly. These codes weren't made at his company. They were completely new. They were ours. That's for the courts to decide, he said calmly. But even a lawsuit that isn't real can scare investors. Even if you are right, it will cost your team a lot of money and time. He was right. Even a fake lawsuit could make people afraid to work with us. It could slow us down, scare our clients, and make our investors nervous. What do you want, Darian? I asked, trying to sound confident, even though my chest felt tight. Partnership, he said with a small smile. Your team joins our company as a special innovation division. You get resources and we get your framework. Everyone wins. I shook my head. Except we'd be back under your control. No thanks. Think about the alternative, he said, leaning forward slightly. Years of court fights. Your team scattered. All because you were too proud to agree. I looked at the papers again. Something felt strange. They were very close to what we were doing now, but a little different. Suddenly I understood. These aren't from our current prototype, I said slowly, feeling my confidence grow. These are from projects we worked on at your company a long time ago. Projects you never finished. Projects you shelved. Darian's face stayed calm, but I noticed a tiny twitch in his jaw. The ideas are similar enough to make things confusing in court, he said. No, they're not, I said firmly. And you know it. That's why you're trying to scare me instead of really suing us. I gathered the papers and handed them back. We're presenting today. Sue us if you want, I said, turning to leave. One more thing you should know, Darian said. Thayer wasn't alone when he fired you. I gave the order. Your questions were getting too close to things that couldn't become public. His honesty hit me hard. My firing had never been about my work or the budget. It was about secrets. My mind raced as I tried to think of all the things we had learned while working there. Everything made sense now. Thank you for your honesty, I said. It makes what happens next easier. I returned to our preparation room, my thoughts spinning like a carousel. The team looked up at me with worried eyes, wondering what had happened. Change of plans, I announced. We're adjusting our presentation. Why? Isolde asked, her voice full of curiosity. What happened? I explained the meeting with Darian, showing them the papers and describing the conversation. Their worried faces slowly turned into determination. They could see the problem, but they could also see the opportunity. He's bluffing, Imani said confidently, looking at our original code. Those fragments must be from old projects, which means he doesn't really know what we've made now. I smiled, feeling a spark of hope. I moved to the whiteboard. What if instead of just showing how our system helps healthcare, we also show how it can catch cheating in financial reports? Aaron smiled slowly, the kind of smile that shows he liked the idea. Could we really do that in time? He asked. Isolde looked nervous but curious. Do we have enough time? She asked. Imani was already typing on her laptop. Yes, if everyone helps, she said. For the next 40 minutes, we worked like crazy. We adjusted the slides, changed the code, and added a new demonstration using public data from the financial world. Everyone was typing, checking numbers, and making sure every graph and chart looked perfect. The room was filled with the sound of clicking keyboards and scribbling markers on the whiteboard. Finally, at 2 p.m. sharp, I walked onto the stage. The hall was packed with people, industry leaders, potential clients, and yes, Darian and Thayer sitting right in the front row. Today, we're going to show you something that changes everything, I said, my voice loud and confident. The presentation started perfectly. First, we showed how our system worked for healthcare. The audience leaned forward, eyes wide, understanding the importance immediately. They could see how our transparency matrix helped make patient outcomes clear and honest. Then came the moment of truth. I said, but healthcare isn't the only area with problems. Let's look at financial reporting. Darian shifted in his seat, his face showing worry. We displayed his company's public financial data from the past 5 years. Notice these patterns, I said, pointing to the graphs. Using our transparency matrix, I showed strange consistencies and impossible patterns that didn't make sense. The numbers were too perfect, too coincidental. They didn't follow normal rules. I didn't need to say they were cheating. I didn't even need to accuse anyone. The numbers spoke for themselves. The audience gasped, leaning closer, clearly shocked by what they saw. As we finished, the hall erupted in applause. I looked directly at Darian. Transparency isn't just a buzzword. It's the future. Those who embrace it will thrive. Those who don't. I let the words hang in the air. The message was clear without me saying it outright. By the evening, everything changed. 3 major clients had approached us about using our system. An investment group requested an exclusive meeting. Journalists swarmed our team for interviews. Darian and Thayer left the event quietly, without speaking to anyone. 2 weeks later, their company announced a leadership change. Darian stepped down as CEO. Thayer moved on to pursue other opportunities. An internal audit was launched to review their finances. We didn't celebrate their downfall. We were too busy building something important, something meaningful. 6 months after the Denver summit, our framework was being used by 30% of the industry. Our team had grown to 40 people, each chosen carefully for their skill, intelligence, and honesty. The company was thriving. The most satisfying moment came when Thayer applied for a position with us. His resume showed he was good at developing talent, but we all remembered what had happened before. I didn't reject him immediately. Instead, I let Isolde, Aaron, Imani, and Caliph interview him. They asked him questions, tested his knowledge, and carefully judged his character. In the end, they found him lacking. We need someone who helps others grow, not someone who takes credit for it, they explained in their rejection letter. I never said, I told you so. I didn't need to. Sometimes the best revenge isn't hurting someone back. It's building something better than what they tried to destroy. Something that changes not just your life, but the lives of many people around you. Something that changes an entire industry. Something that matters. We were building a future where honesty and transparency mattered. A future where our work could make real change. And that future had already begun.